labs, and welcome to the Week 7 Individual Lab Assignment video walkthrough for Applied Spreadsheets. In this week, we're looking at in the labs, Lab 1. We're creating a master sheet to create a multiple sheet workbook. For the assignment, we're only completing steps 1 through 14 on pages EX 337 to 339 in your e-textbook. In order to complete this assignment, we need the student data files. We're looking for Lab 5-1 Overly Schools. That's located by clicking on Doc Sharing tab at the top of our class website. Locate the student data files link, and when you scroll down, you'll want to locate Lab 5-1 Overly Schools. Download and save that Excel file to your computer, which when you open it, it will look like this. In order to get started, you'll want to open up your e-textbook and again navigate directly to page EX 337. You're looking at the very bottom of that page. Make sure you're completing the correct lab. We're looking again at Lab 1 using a master sheet to create a multiple sheet workbook. In the note, we've already completed this step. We don't need to go to the Cengage website for the student data files. Our data files are located in our eCollege course in the Doc Sharing tab, which we've already downloaded. Here we see the scenario as the problem outlined, and essentially we're in a school district. We have multiple schools. In our example, we'll be looking at 2 schools and compiling that data into one master worksheet. You may find this situation for various different careers and industries. Let's say, for example, let's say you were in healthcare and you worked at a doctor's office and he had 3, 4, 5 different satellite offices. And perhaps you need to collect the data from all those various offices into one master consolidated worksheet. There are several examples in definite professional careers where this skill set is heavily utilized. Read through the problem scenario and keep in mind that this video is a high-level walkthrough. You still need to complete and look at the steps closely yourself in the e-textbook. Here we see in figure 5-72 on page EX 338 an example of the main worksheet, the district worksheet, where the information has been compiled. Now note to self, do not, and I repeat, do not copy the numbers and the data that you see here in this diagram, because this assignment requires that you use functions. Do not just change the font color to red, as this assignment requires that you're actually formatting cells. So you really need to execute and follow through on the specifics for the assignment. In step number 1, we're opening the workbook Lab 5-1 Overly Schools. We've already completed that, and now we're looking at step number 2. We're adding 2 worksheets to our workbook, and then we're going to paste the contents from sheet 1 to the other 2 sheets. Let's get started so I can show you what that means. At the bottom of our workbook, we're going to insert our sheets. In total, we will have 3 sheets in this project. So on sheet 1, that's already been provided to us, and it's very important to note that that is starting in row 2. So columns A through G, rows 2 through 9, I'm looking to copy. And I'm just doing a Control-C on my keyboard. Now I'm going to go to sheet 2, and again, it's very important that I start at row 2, and I'm going to paste that information in. I want to make sure that all of this data is in the same rows that it is in for the master worksheet. Now I'm going to go to sheet 3, and again, starting in row 2, I will again paste that information in. So grade 6 should always be in row 6, grade 7 will always be in row 7, Grade 8 always in row 8. That's important because when I ultimately am going to transfer data from these other worksheets to my master worksheet, I certainly do not want to be referencing the incorrect rows. It makes it very easy when you have uniform consistency. The next step in our assignment directions is that we need to rename these tabs, and that's outlined to rename it by district, Hillview Middle School, and McCarty Middle School. And then we will adjust the tab colors as shown here in figure 572. Now we're going to make these similar. So I see I have green, blue, and teal. Let's complete that step now. For sheet 1, if I double click, I'm going to name that just as the textbook outlines, district. For sheet 2, that is Hillview Middle School. And for sheet 3, just as the book outlines, McCarty Middle School. In order to change the tab colors, I simply will right click and select tab color. For my first color, I'm going to select green for my tab color. My second tab, we know that we've selected a blue for the tab color. And my third tab color, I'm looking for teal. I don't exactly have a teal color here in my current theme. So I'm going to select on more colors, and I can actually mix together and create the teal color that I'm looking for that's going to be the closest match. Say OK, and now I have all of my tab colors as outlined here in step number 3. Continuing in step number 3, I want to look at cell B2, and I want to make sure that the name of the sheet is actually on the name of the worksheet. So I will look at Hillview Middle School, and when I select in B2 in my name box, I see that says B2. Here's the name box in the upper left corner. I now need to name this so it is the same as what my tab name is. In this instance, it's Hillview Middle School. And I will hit the enter return key. On McCarty Middle School, again, I'm looking in my name box. You see I'm selected on B2, and that's where I need to name this McCarty Middle School. The next thing, which I'm not going to consume the time in this video for, is doing some formatting. We want to make sure that B2 through G3, which we see here, B2 through G3 in this range here, that this is formatted just as we see here in this diagram. And I want to format it exactly the same for all 3 of my sheets. You're very familiar with formatting by now, where you're going to know how to format it so that we have consistency across the board. And so you'll want to execute and do the same for that on all of your sheets. So every single one will have the same formatting applied. Make sure that you follow through with that consistency, as again, I don't want to take assignment video time in order to do that now. So you want to definitely double check and make sure everything is 100% the same and consistent across the board for all of your sheets. And once you execute your formatting, and again, I'm dashing through. I'm not even paying attention to exact formatting. You want to take your time and make sure that you do have that consistency from sheet to sheet. After that, looking back at our e-textbook, once we have completed that, we're now looking to enter the data that's here at the bottom in the table 5-11. I need to enter the Hillview Middle School, which is the top 3 rows on the Hillview Middle School sheet. I need to enter the McCarty Middle School data, that's the bottom last 3 rows, into the McCarty Middle School sheet. Let's start with Hillview Middle School. Double check and verify that you're on the correct sheet. And again, you're just transferring the data from this table. So grade 6, I see I have 180 students. I have 188 for grade 7, and grade 8 is 145 students. For number of rooms, again, I'm just transferring that data. I have 8 rooms for grade 6, 8 for grade 8, and 7 rooms for grade, 8, 8, and 7. Now you'll see the next area in my table is the number of rooms that are over capacity. Well, I see that I am now skipping column E. We'll come back to that in just a minute. Make sure you're entering your data in the correct cells and the correct columns. The number of rooms over capacity, I'll transfer that data from table 511 right here into this sheet. Number of rooms over or under capacity, again, I'm going to be transferring that data right here from that sheet. Now I need to look at McCarty Middle School. Make sure you verify that you're on the correct sheet. And again, transferring the last 3 rows from table 511, I'm looking to enter that data information in. The number of rooms, again, I'm just simply transferring that, and you want to make sure that you're in the correct rows and the correct columns. Don't get sidetracked with the column E for the average. And number of rooms over capacity, I will enter in that data from the table. And last, the rooms that are under capacity. Now, as we look at the next step, which I need to select the next page, I am now looking to, on the 2 school worksheets, Hillview Middle and McCarty, calculate the average students per room in column E. So that's where we're coming back here to column E, and let's actually start here with Hillview Middle and column E. Now, do not get thrown off by the average students per room. The average that does not mean the average function. I repeat, we are not using the average function. In fact, when we're looking at figuring out the average, it's really just taking the number of students and dividing that by the number of rooms. So let's look at how we complete that. We start every function, as we know, with the equal sign. I'm looking at taking the number of students and dividing that by the number of rooms. Then I can hit the enter or return key, and that is what returns my average. So again, for the next one, I need to do the same thing in column E, row 7, taking the number of students divided by the number of rooms. And again, I'm hitting my return or enter key after each one. Remember, start with the equal sign, number of students divided by the number of rooms, return or equal. Now you're going to see here we're going to fall into cell formatting. And you can see how this number here in E8 looks different than my numbers above. On my home tab, you're going to note that we have options to format our cells. When you hover your tool or you hover your cursor over any of the tools or features in Excel, you'll see the tool tips. Here I see decrease the number of decimal places. I can now click that one time, and now my formatting is on track. You will need to watch your cell formatting, and I'm going to repeat that over and over many times to watch your cell formatting. To do the average students per room in McCarty Middle School, again, I'm going to do the same thing, starting with the equal sign for my function, taking the number of students and dividing that by the number of rooms. So I will continue to go through just as we did in the previous example. After I complete that data, I then want to again make sure that I watch my formatting. And here's another example where I need to pay attention and watch my formatting and make sure that I have that correctly displayed by decreasing the number of decimal places. On step number 4, the last thing that we're calling for is in order to complete row 9. And so we see in number 4 that we need to complete the totals in row 9. So the totals in row 9, very simple use of the sum function tool for column C in row 9. So we know a function begins with the equals. I have the sum function, open parentheses, and I'm simply looking at C6 to C8. And close parentheses, and I can hit the enter or return key. Likewise, don't remember we have the shortcut. If you find your formulas tab and the auto sum, you're able to actually use the auto sum as well. We are not going to sum column E, so don't get fooled. We're not using the sum function here. Instead, we're going to do the same process as we did above by taking the number of students and dividing that by the number of rooms, and that will give me that total. In these last 2 columns, F and G, I am able to actually indeed use the sum function. So once you enter in all that data for row 9, then we will simply move on to the next school sheet and we'll have to execute and complete the same thing. So we are using the sum function, which I want to make sure I'm going to do it both ways. So I'm going to show you equals sum, open parentheses, so you manually learn how to do it. And I'm looking at taking C6 all the way to C8 to add that up. And that's what my function looks like. Likewise, again, you are able to just go and use on the formulas tab the sum function. Remember, column E is not the sum function. We are dividing here. We are taking the number of students divided by the number of rooms and hitting the return or enter key and not forgetting to actually format our cells and reduce the decimal places. Again, make sure you remember to format your cells. Pay very close attention to that. So after I complete all my information and complete my totals, I have McCarty Middle School completed and Hillview Middle School completed. Now you'll note when I look at district, this is where I now need to take the data from the Hillview Middle School page and the McCarty Middle School page, and I want to consolidate it all together. So for grade 6, I'm looking at taking information from both of these sheets. And here I'll be able to use 3D reference. When I look at the number of students, I know that I'm looking at adding this, so I know I'm looking at the sum function. If I then select, simply click on Hillview Middle School, and then I'm going to hold down my shift key. When I hold down my shift key, I'm going to select McCarty Middle School. Look at my function line. The cell, column, and row I'm looking at here is C6, so I'll do one click in that. And then I can hit the enter or return key on my keyboard. And here you'll see that that actually displays my function that I've used and the actual addition for Hillview Middle School 6th graders and McCarty Middle School 6th graders. Let's do another example for grade 7. Again, my function always starts with an equal sign. I'm looking at the sum function with an open parenthesis. I'm simply going to do one single left click on Hillview Middle School tab. I'll now hold down my shift key on my keyboard and select McCarty Middle School. I'm now looking at cells C7 and I'll simply do one click. Pay attention to what my function line looks like. I'm going to hit the enter or return key and that will return the value for me. I need to continue this for grade 8. Once again, I'm looking at the sum function. One single click on Hillview Middle, hold down my shift key and click on McCarty Middle, and now I'm looking at grade 8. So that is cell C8. Then hit my enter or return key, and that is the total for me. I can complete this for the number of rooms and follow through and execute the very exact same skill. Hitting my equal sign, I'm looking at my sum function, one single click on Hillview Middle, hold down my shift key, one single click of McCarty Middle School, and then I'm able to now select the number of rooms for grade 6. I'm going to press the enter return key on your keyboard, and you'll note on my district page, this information is automatically transferred and populated from Hillview Middle School and McCarty Middle School, looking at the cell here that's displayed in D6. So another quick example sum. I'm going to simply click on Hillview Middle School, and now I'm going to press and hold my shift key and click on McCarty Middle School, and I will then continue on by clicking on here, I'm looking at D7, enter, return. So that's where my data is now easily referenced and following through with that process. I'll want to complete that in order to do my rooms over capacity and my rooms that are under capacity. So in order to do that, I will do the same exact thing as what we just did, referencing those other sheets. Exactly the same concept. One single click, hold down my shift key, press my McCarty Middle School, and I'm looking at Selecting that cell, my data is transferred over. And I'm going to continue that here for the series of these in column F and G as well. On the average per student here, I will start my function with an equal sign, and I'm simply looking at taking, again, the number of students divided by the number of rooms, and that's how I figure out the average. Remember, as I've been saying, you want to watch your cell formatting, which you'll find on your Home tab, and you'll want to make sure that you reduce the decimal places so that your numbers format it properly as you see here. Again, my equal sign, I'm simply taking the number of students divided by the number of rooms, hitting the enter or return key on my keyboard, and that allows me to find the average. I'm making sure that I format each one of my cells accordingly. And so another example here, dividing the number of students by the number of rooms. And once again, on my Home tab, I'm going to format it by number and decrease my decimal place. Showing again how to reference the other rooms over capacity. That's starting my function with an equal. I'm looking at the sum function. I'm doing one single click on Hillview Middle, holding down my shift key, and now clicking on McCarty Middle School. And now I'm looking at grade 7 and hitting enter or return. I'll do the same thing here and following through. We're on grade 8, so I simply click on Hillview. Now I'm going to press and hold my shift key, select McCarty. I'm going to pick grade 8, enter or return. So my information is gradually transferred over and populated. As I look at these ranges here, now I'm going to, and remember, you need to complete this as well. When I am looking at completing, say, the totals here, I am looking at my sum function, just as we did previously. And my sum function on this particular district sheet is no different. I'm looking at C6 range to the C8 range, and that's how I can manually type that in. Or again, we remember that I do have my formulas tab, and I can use the sum function and hit enter or return. For average, that's column E. Once again, I need to follow through with the division of the number of students divided by the number of rooms. That is not using the sum function. I then have to make sure that I format my cell accordingly to display. As I look at the number of rooms, as we did previously, we are using the sum function, which I'm manually putting in, and that is in F6 all the way through F8. And of course, you need to follow through and finish your number of rooms under capacity. Now, as we look through our assignment here, we will see that we need to select the range of F6 through F9 on the district worksheet. So here, F6 through F9, I have this range here, and I'm looking at applying a custom format. So I'm formatting the cells using a custom format. So if I select these cells, F6 through F9, and I right click and I go to Format Cells, you'll note that we have the various different tabs for number, alignment, font, border, etc. Make sure you're on the Number tab, and at the very bottom you'll see Custom. Now yours may display and look a little different than mine, but you'll have the general same concept and skill set. What we're looking to do is we're applying a custom format, and here I can see the custom format displayed here. Really, all that means is here in this dialog field, I am putting in, and be very careful that it's exactly the same with brackets. I can put in any color that I want here. I could type, in this example, I need to type red. I can type blue, green, red, etc. After my brackets, I'm going to do a pound sign, and then followed by a comma, and then following along with the example, I have 3 pound signs followed by a colon. Now in quotes, I'm actually putting in the negative sign because that's what I want my zeros to turn to. Now when I select OK, you'll see that my data is displayed here in red. It's not a red font, but let me backtrack and undo that for just a moment. Because I want this to translate to all of my pages, I'm actually going to hold down the Shift key. I'm keeping that held down, and I'm going to select All three of my sheets are now selected. Let me show you that example again. I'm selecting column F, rows 6 through 9. Now I'm going to hold and press my Shift key and select Hillview and McCarty Middle School. And again, when I right click and I select Format My Cells on my Number tab for Custom is where I will put in my brackets with the color that I want, red, close the bracket, and follow through. Exactly, the book has this outline, but you can do some interesting research online and find out about other ways to format cells that you can enter here in as a custom format. When I hit OK, I now see that that's formatted them in red, but it's not a red font. If I look at my font, it's not set to red. This is because I did a custom cell format. When I look at my other sheets, I'll see that that is also in red for me. Now, when I look at my district for rooms under capacity, let me quickly just populate this as we have done previously. So I'll select Hillview, hold down my Shift key, and I am selecting that, enter, return, and I want to do the same here. So enter sum, one single click on Hillview, hold down my Shift key, select McCarty and grade 8, enter, return. My next one is the same and final, and hold McCarty and that one, enter and return. Here I'm basically just using the sum function, and I have that completed. So for this formatting, again, I'll select all of rows 6 through 9 in column G, hold down my Shift key, and I'm going to select all of my other two tabs, which is Hillview and McCarty, so they're all selected. Right click, format the cells, select custom, just as we did before. And now in my brackets, I think I am turning this to green, but you'll want to verify in your book if we are indeed turning it to green. And then I have my number sign followed by a comma, just as we did before. I'm going to use two semicolons, and in quotes is my negative underscore. I can't use the number that I typed. Well, I think I can. So let me look at this. I think that I should be just golden with this. Let me see if I take out one of my... It's not letting me... Oh, my bracket is wrong. Silly mistake. So you've just watched me correct an error because I actually did not have the correct bracket. Now you'll see that where I had zeros, it's put in the slash for me. So when I look at my other sheets where I had the zeros, it will put in the slashes for me. I'm going to look back here at formatting in my red format, and I'm going to see if I add another semicolon there and say okay. Oh, I forgot to select all of my tabs. I'm going to format these cells. See if I add another semicolon there and say okay. And when I look at my other sheets, the negative, the zeros are now displayed with a zero. They're now displayed with the slash sign as we see here in the book. So what I did different that's not here in the book that you'll need to explore is you'll see that when I did the formatting, I selected all of the rows 6 through 9, and then I held down my Shift key and selected all of my worksheets to make sure that they're all selected. When I right click and I format cells, I select custom, and just as the book has it typed, you'll type that, but I see here I added 2 semicolons and the book really only has 1. That allowed me to change my zeros into a slash or a negative sign, if you will. And then you can say okay. So that's how you'll execute and complete upon that. So that's really, I format it here with the non-zero entries. So we've really just walked down to step number 9. And now really we just have really just kind of 3 steps left here, which is a lot more of formatting. In step number 10, we're using the Cell Styles button on the Home tab to create a new cell style named My Title. So just really quickly on that, on the Home tab, when you look at Cell Styles, and you'll find yours might be located a little differently than mine are, of course, but you'll see New Cell Style, and when you click on Format, you'll be able to apply a new cell style. And when you apply a new cell style, that's where you can now change the font. I'm on the font box, and I'm changing that font to Britannic. So you'll want to follow through with that formatting. Britannic, where are you? It helps if I'm in alphabetical order. So you'll want to find that font as we scroll through here. And you'll want to make adjustments to the font, blah, blah, blah. This is formatting that you know. And remember that when you give it a style name, you'll name it as the book directions, say My Title. And pay attention in the assignment that you follow through and all the formatting. I'm just doing this as a high level, but that way when you look at, what are we looking at? Changing B2 to B3. So when I look here at B2 to B3, I'm going to now be applying My Title. So you'll need to pay attention and add some formatting and the alignment. So you'll need to align this most certainly. So pay attention to the format and alignment when you set that up. And last but not least, when you're looking at Figure 7.2 as a guide to add borders to your worksheet, and all the borders should be the same. So on figure 5-7.2, we see that we have borders. So we see that we have this border around, and all the borders should be the same. By now, that type of formatting that you know that we have should be the same basic formatting that you certainly know how to use by now. So you want to look at changing your format of your borders, and your system will be a little bit different than where my things are located, but you'll definitely need to work on formatting and applying that. So I do want to make sure that you have included all formatting, and you do need to go through all of the steps of the assignment, because this video is a high-level overview. Ultimately, you'll see I will be checking for your functions across the board and making sure that you have all of the correct formatting. So that's the overview of this assignment and all the core skill sets we really just covered here in this video. Remember, you can pause, play, rewind, and fast forward this video as needed. I look forward to seeing your week 7 assignments.